Hello, everyone. This is Debra Richardson, and today I am putting the AP in Happy, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. This podcast will give a voice to accounts payable team members by talking about the growing reality of cyber attacks in their world and which vendor setup and vendor management techniques they can apply to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Need training? Visit the Vendor Process Training Center to enroll in your choice of weekly live and on-demand training sessions. Plus, get access to vendor setup form templates and reference tools that will help you and your team avoid fraud, fines, and bad vendor data. So sign up for a free account to get access to free training sessions, vendor process FAQs, and a resource library with information you need to manage your vendor master file. Visit training.debrarrichardson.com today. The link will be in the show notes. If you perform a web search and use the results to find your vendor contact information, or you use it to confirm their information that they've given you, you might want to hear what the Federal Trade Commissioner FTC warns against, plus what you can do instead. Keep listening. Welcome to episode 333, Looking for Vendor Contact Info, 3 reasons why the FTC warns not to use online search results. Now, I have to say that every time I have a training session on preventing fraud or validating vendor information, I almost said customer information because I'm actually working on some content for a customer master file training too. So stay tuned in the future for that announcement if you handle both AP and AR, meaning you have the vendor master file and you have the customer master file. But anyway, every time I get on a training or a webinar about it and I talk about fraud and validating information and finding, contact information to make that, let's say, confirmation call if you have a change in remittance information, I always get someone that confidently types in, we search for that information online. Meaning they don't trust what is given to them automatically, which is good. But I always kind of burst that bubble by saying, well, how do you trust what really comes up? And then I get like birds chirping. And what I did, which I was very happy to find, is I found a recent post from the FTC about online search results. And it's in an article entitled Online Search Results, the Good, the Bad, and the Scammy. And so there are 3 reasons why they give why you should not rely on the online search results. And so I wanted to talk about those today because, again, I know a lot of you do use the web searches, either Google or Bing or something else, in order to find like information from your vendors. And I get it, right? I've inherited vendor master files. I've, overseen that process of adding new vendors, changing existing vendors. And I know we don't always have all the full information from either the purchasing team or the internal team member that has a relationship with the vendor. And so when that happens, and let's say you get a request in from email, which can be risky, which is risky anyway, right? Because that's where the fraud happens. You can't trust anything in that email. So what do you do? So I do have the 3 reasons why from the FTC, from their article, and I will link that in the show notes. So if you want to read it, you can. So I'll talk about that. And then I'll talk about one thing you can do instead that might help you mitigate these risks of, just trusting what you see online, because you really can't do that. And so why, let's talk about the 3 reasons from the FTC. So the first one is they say, know that the first search results you might see might be paid ads. So they show up based on what you search for and may or may not be what you're looking for. And there were a couple of scam alerts that I talked about. I don't know if it was last year or the year before last, but the fraudsters have been using paid ads for quite a while now so that they will appear on the top of the search results, and they will have websites, taglines, everything that looks like or appears to be whoever it is they are impersonating that you might be looking for. So those first search results might be paid ads. Now, that was the first reason. The second reason is that the phone number that comes up may not be legit. You could be calling a scammer or a dishonest business who doesn't want you to know that you're in the wrong place. And so, again, just like paid ads, the results are going to be the top of the results may be that fraudulent website with that fraudulent information, including a fraudulent phone number. Now, the third reason is really a way to mitigate it, but it is because the website may not be valid. And so what they're saying to do is to type a company's website address directly into your browser if you know it. And I know a lot of times we don't know that information. And so if you don't, again, when you go to search for that vendor, what comes up may be an ad. Also, it could be a illegitimate phone number, a fraudulent phone number, and it also could be a fraudulent website as well. So for those reasons, you need to make sure that you're not just blindly using what you see out there in the results when you're searching on the web. And what the FTC says to do about it is to use information that you have on validated documents, right, from the invoice. But again, you can have fraudulent invoices too. So you want to make sure that information is valid. Now, what I recommend you do is to get the vendor's contact information directly from the person or group that has the relationship with the vendor. So if it is a PO vendor, go to the purchasing team or the procurement team and obtain their contact information. And if it's not a PO vendor, then go to the person, the internal team member that has a relationship with the vendor, and ask them for the vendor's contact information. Because a lot of times we don't always get that when we are setting up a vendor, especially if you inherited a vendor master file and your existing vendor records are not complete. And so you're going to need to find a way to get that information versus doing a search on the web. And so I do have a template for that. It's called the Internal Vendor Request Form. And this is how you can collect correct vendor contact data. Again, it helps you to stop searching websites for the correct vendor contact. And by the way, one of the things I forgot to mention is that I've been told by quite a few practitioners when I go to in-person conferences that when they do get to, let's say, the legitimate vendor's website, they're trying to get contact information like for AR, right? Because they're trying to validate or confirm changes. And what they find is that contact information has been taken down. And that's because of the same reason you're trying to get the contact information to call them, because the vendors want to protect their internal team members from fraud, because fraudsters do target AR as well. And so if you have a internal vendor request form. That's what I call the template that I have that I use for clients. It's also available in the Authentication Validation Management Vendor Toolkit, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And it's not so you can purchase it, although you can if you want, but I do have screenshots or a visual of it so that you can see what I include and you can create your own if you are interested. And so again, I think the best way to get vendor information, if you do not have it, vendor contact information, is to not go and start searching on Google or Bing, but to look internally because somebody had to purchase, right, those goods or those services, whether it's purchasing or procurement or an internal team member for a non-PO purchase. And again, that is because you cannot trust the online search results. And I love the fact that the FTC came out with that article. All right, so thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed the 333rd episode of the Putting the AP in Happy podcast, where accounts payable teams are empowered to protect the vendor master file from fraud. Don't forget to check the show notes for the links mentioned in the podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and writing a review of my podcast on the platform that you use to listen. Stay happy.